What? What is that? Something's grown on my screen. Uh, what? Look at that. Surprise boner. Hey, Bo, how's it going, my man?
It goes. It goes.
It goes. Welcome into Live on Two Wheels, everybody. I just tapped Bo. I was like, you got to sub in, my man. So he forgot how to work a camera for a little
Third
bit.
third stringer.
Yeah, I mean, I went down my phone. I was like, well, even the dog turned me down, so I guess I'll close. No, Bo, thanks for taking some time to be here today.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out for a little bit. Got a couple interesting things to talk about. But everyone in the chat, thank y'all for being here. I see all the regulars, Control Alt Owned, Mystic, Small Bore, Goonies in here. Man, it's good to see you guys here as well.
Yeah, no. Nothing has changed. It's just me and the monster.
Monster and smoke.
Mm-hmm.
You're like a dragon.
Yeah, I'm in my house, so I'm full free reign to just relax and be myself.
This is going to be scary, y'all, but we're going to have a good time. So
I'm wearing pants at least.
don't stand up. I don't want to test that. I'll just take your word for it on that one.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of worked out well because just this past weekend, both you and I went up. Royal Enfield had a demo over in Marietta, so we got to check that out. My first time on Royal Enfield, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We also got an interesting thing where I posed a question, like we're going to talk about helmet laws and requirements. Ooh, don't tell me what to do. Hey, be safe. So we'll get into a little bit of that as well. And then just whatever else we're going to do. We may do a member giveaway and then maybe a little bit of life advice toward the end.
I could always use some of that, honestly.
You know what's up with that. Boner, just the tip. All
Yep.
right. So, well, let's dive into our first segment here. So, all right, Bo, prompted by a recent proposal by the legislature in West Virginia to remove the helmet requirement.
I'm not surprised it came from there.
No, there are a few states where you're like, that tracks.
Yep.
But before we dive into looking at all of that, I put a question out on the community post. Let me see if I can pull that up here on the screen. And so I said, should helmets be required for all motorcyclists? And there was 4 answers. Yes, no, yes, but, and no, but, because oftentimes with things, there's some nuance. So looking at these results, what's your impression about how people have voted on this?
Yeah, I there's only one appropriate answer for this question, and I'm glad to see that most people are on the right track, honestly.
Yes. I was thinking most people would have a yes with a yes but being second. Because maybe there is situations that there can be some nuance to it, but we can get into that. But yeah, it is good to know that most people are like, yes, because helmet, good thing. Busted brain, no bueno. But I thought we could start by looking at some of the comments here, maybe breaking some of these down and just see what we can get from it. Dr. Fudd, a.k.a. Nick Ingalls, I don't know if he's in here. He said he always leans toward yes, but you have to set a limit on how much we blame the driver ride versus the machine. And that's fair, I guess, because it's always like, are people putting themselves in the situation? Should they be responsible? Personal responsibility versus, whatever. It's lost where I was.
The thought on personal responsibility, when I get it, personal freedoms, blah 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 blah, but the other person involved in the incident did not sign up for you to not protect your skull, so there is a personal responsibility to it. yes, it affects you, but it also affects the person that's involved as well. Like they didn't leave the house today going like, hopefully, like I can't wait to kill a motorcyclist by hitting them with my F550. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, there is some personal responsibility there, but like hedge your
Mm-hmm.
bets because like that person is probably just going to work. Maybe they didn't want to deal with that mess. I don't know.
Sure. Looking at some more comments here, like Aussie R6 says, like, yes, as well as an airbag vest, like requiring that as well. Um, paying $700 for an airbag is nothing compared to a six-figure hospital bill. Okay. Um, this person here, Lone Wolves on Wheels, basically says, I don't think it should be law. I don't care what other people do, but he still does wear a helmet. Interesting. Hobbit of Chaos, K-O-I-S, who just got a new R3, I believe. So good for him. Someone who had a head injury, that tracks, while wearing a helmet. I should have been dead, but he's not because helmet. So wear a helmet regardless. And then Chi Guy says yes, but allow lane filtering, which I feel like that's a separate
Yeah.
discussion. That's an add-on. I get where he wants to go with it just to make it all safer, but
Yeah.
so interesting comments there. Kind of to go back to what you were saying about like the other driver. What if it's a solo incident?
I mean, still, they like your like traumatic brain injury and or death doesn't just affect you. In fact, it affects you less than it does the people around you.
Yeah, because you're just out of the picture now.
If you're a freaking vegetable or you're no longer alive, then it definitely doesn't matter to you because your brain don't work no mo. Like it not there are very few things that you do as a human being that only affect you, especially if you have people around you that care about you.
Right.
More than that, let's take the wholly selfish look at it. Why wouldn't you want to protect the most important organ? I have ridden with double amputees. I've watched stunt riders who are missing arms. I've seen professional racers who are missing limbs. I have not once in my 12, 13 years of riding on the street ever ridden with somebody without a brain. Like if they're missing a head, I've never seen them on a bike. I just think that even if you're a wholly selfish individual, why wouldn't you want to protect the most important part? Arguably the most important part. What makes you you as a person? Why you wouldn't want to protect it? I've tried riding without a helmet and visited with a buddy down in Florida. I got about halfway down the road and I was like, nah, this ain't for me.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like I can't, even if I'm riding around a parking lot without my helmet on, I'm like, this is
Even when I
weird.
do stuff to the bike and I just want to go test it out in my neighborhood, I'm putting a helmet on. Like I want to make sure that even just like falling while walking can be dangerous. Like 10 miles an hour is enough to do serious brain damage.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah,
but
if you,
the point though of like, yeah, but if we make it a law and blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, but if you don't, people choose not to, and it's a completely avoidable thing. Just like it's a law to wear a seatbelt, it should be a law to wear a helmet, especially since they have nothing else to protect us. We're very exposed, and I mean, I can get into this long thing. Like my favorite thing, and I know this makes me a horrible person, and I'm sorry. My favorite thing is watching, reading stories about lawmakers who are fighting the good fight to make helmet laws no longer a thing, eating shit on a motorcycle on their way to their government legislative job and either having brain damage or passing away from a motorcycle accident and due to a head injury was completely avoidable. I know that makes me a bad person, but when I read that, I'm like, hey, there's your freaking sign, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you are kind of like, that's terrible,
But also,
but it's,
if ever there was a poster child for, hey, we should make this a federal law, and no state should be allowed to say, hey, you can't wear a helmet. If you're gonna be on a motorcycle, wear a helmet, because there are like at least half a dozen that I know of legislators who've been trying to get rid of helmet laws that have been injured or killed on their way to legislate the helmet laws. And I'm like, that is divine intervention, my guy. Trying to tell you something.
yes, it's very ironic. Or whatever you want to do with that. But yeah, it's when you have a situation like that, you're like, but personal freedom.
Yeah, but there are, like I said, there are very few things in this world that you do as a human being, that, especially if you have people, like I said, that care about you, that only affect you.
Right.
Even the smallest decisions have some sort of effect on people in your life, or people around you, or your neighbors, or just like there was a lady literally 5 minutes away from here who was in a serious car crash because one of the dirt bike guys came out of nowhere and scared, I mean, like, there's a lot of old people living around here, scared to death, and she got really injured because she wrecked her car. That guy was doing things his own way. It only affects me, blah blah blah. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That kid got seriously hurt, ran away, she's in a ditch somewhere. And I'm like, that lady's just going to the store. She just had not a care in the world, just enjoying her day, and now she's got to deal with, like, did I just kill somebody? I mean, that did nothing that you do when you step outside of the confines of your own personal environment really only affect you. So you have to think about it like that as well.
Yeah, and just a couple comments that both came in from Control Alt Owned and Luke B, just talking about like the EMS team that shows up to to scrape you off the road.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's their job, and I guess maybe thank you for letting them work their job, but also at the same time, they don't want to do that.
I'm sure that the guys that, what was it, like 8 years ago or whatever, that were picking up pieces of a dude off of 285 that had been scraped for miles. Like, I'm sure that they would have had other things they would have rather been doing.
Yes.
That guy wanted to go fast in between two tractor trailers, and he split two tractor trailers at like 70, 80 miles an hour and got caught up in the turbulence and got sent underneath the tractor trailer. So I'm like, yeah, you have to think about everybody that's involved, and then just be like, what's the simplest solution? Protect my nugget. These helmets are made to take a beating. So it's like they're specifically designed to keep you from having horrible brain injuries. And like even the cheapest one will do the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can get a speed and strength that's, DOT ECE certified for like $140. You can get a Snell rated Scorpion for like $140-$150. Done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I totally agree with you on that, because I'm usually in the camp when it comes to anything that's like legislative or whatever. Generally speaking, I am in one of those, like, you do whatever you want to do, behave how you want to behave, eat what you want, whatever, as long as your action does not impact anybody, even indirectly.
Your freedom's
I don't care.
At the freedoms of another person is basically what I think, how I feel about it.
That is a great way to say it.
You should be able to toot around in your own backyard or your own private property without having to worry about it. And I do think that you can do that. You don't have to have a helmet on to like toot around on, your own
ruckus.
Yeah,
on a ruckus.
But the moment that you step into the public realm, there's a Venn diagram of personal rights and public rights, and somewhere in the middle is like, hey, you got to you have to make the decision. I had a conversation. So we've got the 12 o'clock boys that live in our area. They're all the ATV and like the quad and dirt bike guys. that storm Atlanta all the time.
Yeah, show up on the news every once
Yeah,
in a while.
those guys are like 2 blocks away, and that you see my bike, and it's all kind of like a big dirt bike, and they see it, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. So they started talking to me, and they were like, oh, you probably hate us, and I'm like, I don't hate you guys. I really wish you guys would, at the very least, wear a freaking helmet. like like you're gonna do dumb stuff, sure. I have thoughts about that as well, but at the very least, put on a
Hmm.
helmet because your homie's not coming to the hospital to feed you through, your soft foods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ride my quad to go get you some applesauce.
Yeah,
It's
like,
like,
at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you and the people that you care about are taken care of. You
mhm.
can't do that if you're eating mashed potatoes for the rest of your life.
'Tis true.
Yeah.
Bouncing over to a few little statistics that we do have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is from some official thing. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even know what government entities are around anymore today. But
Yeah.
motorcycle helmets are estimated to be 37% effective in preventing fatal injuries to motorcyclists and 41% effective for passengers. That is not an insignificant number. That is, I mean, clearly a big thing.
Well, especially considering how exposed you are, and I'd be curious to see what percentage of people in like Georgia are motorcyclists that actually in class, but also registered on a vehicle, and how much of a percentage of those are involved in accidents. I know that Georgia specifically. It's funny because I'm writing up a video specifically about this topic of vehicle incidents and stuff like that in as far as motorcyclists are concerned.
Mm,
Georgia is in the top 10 for every statistic for fatalities and injuries in vehicle accidents and motorcycle accidents. They're in the top 10 for every single category. And we don't have that large of a motorcycle community as far as like registered vehicles and riders comparative to the amount of people that are in Atlanta.
mhm.
I think it's something very low, like in the teens of a percentage of vehicles on the road are motorcycles. But most of the fatalities, a majority of fatalities, are from motorcycles.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much of that could be alleviated by better safety equipment. I know a lot of people in Atlanta like those dumb, like novelty helmets. I see them all the time when I'm in,
The
like
Amazon Predator helmet.
yes, the Predator helmet or the chrome bucket helmet.
Yeah,
Um,
those little skull caps. I just
yeah.
no.
They literally send you the DOT sticker in the box because they can't legally put it on the helmet. Those kind of things. I know there's a lot of those.
Wow, I did not know about that. But
Yeah. They can't
that's
legally. They're sold as novelty, but the
I
companies
never
will
put it on
literally
there.
send them with a DOT sticker. This is a real thing that happens.
We never said it was DOT.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's how they dodge it. Up on the screen now, we've got a bar graph that shows the actual helmet usage, whether the state requires helmets or not. And even for those states requiring helmets, it's not 100%, but it's probably, 90%, which I guess you'll take. Which some of those are non-compliant helmets, which
Yeah,
is probably those
totally.
novelty helmets that they find, which just shatter upon, you go 80 miles an hour and it just breaks apart.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see that the other states that do not have a helmet law, that at least the helmet usage is over 50%.
Yeah.
But
I can
you
only
could,
anecdotally, like when you go down to Florida, most of the people that aren't wearing a helmet are going to be like your 50 plus Harley riders.
mhm.
Like almost everybody that I've seen down there that is young or on like a sport bike or a sport touring bike or something like that, almost every one of those guys that I saw were wearing helmets. And ADV guys, we just wear helmets like when we're walking around. So like,
Yeah, you don't even
yeah,
take it off.
yeah, we just live in the helmet. But like, I was very aware that a lot of younger. I went visited Blockhead a couple of years back for his grand opening of the shop, and I was actually shocked at how many people there, how many young people there were wearing helmets, even on cruisers and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
so I think it's a generational thing. So
I agree.
that number is actually, I'm not surprised to see above 50%.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully we'll see more of that.
Hmm.
You know, to your point, it is a generational thing. I think
Yeah.
we will get to a point where it's more accepted. I think it will be kind of like the seatbelt law, because when did that, was that a federal like mandate in
70s?
70s
Yeah.
70s?
I know that
And
fun fact, the seatbelt was invented by an engineer at Volvo, and he refused to patent the idea because he wanted other companies to make and put in seatbelts in all cars because it had been proven to be much safer, like reduce injuries and death a lot. So shout out, good guy Volvo.
seriously,
Yeah,
like we need more of those people. But
yeah, yeah.
if he had patented it and retired with $10 billion in a couple years, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have blamed him,
Um,
but finding out he didn't is like, I mean, the thing that's going to make helmets, it comes down to like cool guy factor,
mhm.
right? And a lot of old heads don't see helmets as cool. Oh, it's restrictive and I can't breathe. And I'm like, bro, I've been in 100-degree heat, huffing and puffing up a mountain on a dirt road, and I had my visor down. Like, you can breathe. It's fine. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it because you don't want to seem like an uncool guy wearing your safety lid and blah blah blah. And like, it's an old mentality. But like, young people, it's like it's cool to still be a functioning living adult. Like, I think that's what
Yeah,
it boils down to.
yeah. It's not like you have to trade in your balls to wear a
Yeah.
helmet. So
I don't
it's
think I don't think the younger generation is as concerned with what's considered cool guy attitude
right.
as like the old heads are, personally.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, going back to the seatbelt law thing, when that was enacted, I mean, there was a lot of outrage and whatever from
Hmm.
the personal freedom crowd or
Yep, yep.
whatever of how dare they take away our right to fly through a windshield in a crash or whatever, I mean, and so it's just that thing of like, here's this thing, but yet here we are now, 40, 50 years later, generationally, and
Yeah.
it's like just what you do. You get in the car, you put on the seatbelt.
Yeah.
So
I honestly, when I think about helmet laws, I think why is this a question? Like, you know what? Make it a federal law, and if you guys don't want to wear a helmet, then you just accept the consequences of having to pay it. But like, you can't get on a motorcycle without a helmet. The end. Who cares? Who cares if people cry about their personal freedoms when the result is more people get to live and have a healthy life? I don't see the controversy at all personally. And like, I'm a big fan of like, stay the hell out of my life, right? Like, as long as what I'm doing doesn't affect another person, directly or indirectly, then it
hmm
shouldn't matter and it shouldn't be legislated. But having said that, going back to what I said earlier, when you step out onto a public road, like, I would expect somebody to arrest me if I went down Peachtree with my pud hanging out of my pants. Like, yes, it's my decision
we
to
don't want
ride.
you to do that again, Boner.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, that's my decision to
My
not wear
pud.
pants while I'm riding a motorcycle. But like, also, like, people didn't sign up for that. So like,
Yes.
you have to make concessions if you're going to enter the public space. You can't go into a building and yell fire. You can do whatever you want. You're free. You have consequences.
You're not free of the consequences.
You
Yeah.
can you can go into a car and go down the road at 90 miles an hour without a seatbelt. But if you get caught doing that, be prepared for the if you make it out of that situation alive and not NASA status out of your windshield, be be prepared to accept the consequences of that action. You're free to do whatever you want, but federal law should be if you get on a motorcycle, put a helmet on your head. The end. Personally,
I concur.
yeah. Sorry,
feel-
sorry.
No. It's one of those things where I think we're just so on the same page about it. I mean, we've given the little caveat of yes, we understand as long as you're not impacting someone else, which I think is the argument that a lot of the other people make. Is like it's my life. I will face the consequences myself, and
you won't. You'll be dead, and you won't care.
True. Yes.
Yeah. You know. What I mean?
But to that point, their view, I understand it. I don't agree with it. Yeah. But I get where they're coming from.
I understand it from the aspect of how they're viewing it, but there's a fundamental flaw in how they're viewing it. That's where I come from. You're looking at it as it only affects you, but the reality of that is that it really doesn't. And as simple. Plus, we're in the best time to buy safety equipment because carbon fiber and torsional rotation and airbags and all these
MIPS,
all these crazy, like there's a new version of MIPS now. It's not the plastic thing. It's like built into the liner. And this is a great time. And you can get into it for really, really reasonable prices. And there's no reason not to spend, like literally you can go get a helmet right now that you could legally race in every league in America right now for under $200. It would pass everything. Like I've got a Snell rated Scorpion I bought years ago, and I paid $130 for it. And I'm just like, you can get into it. You can get into the best safety equipment right now for so much less money than you could back in the day.
Yeah, same. My first helmet was an HJC Snell approved for, I think I got it for $89 because it had a little scratch on the back.
Yeah.
That was it. But yeah, it's not like you have to go spend $800 on whatever helmet.
Yeah.
But to that, we would advise, or I would advise, I hope you're with it, don't get just DOT.
Yeah. Always go for ECE. Without getting super technical, they have like I think 34 more parameters they test, and the testing that they do is actually for ECE 2206 is actually higher than I think the two other. There's the FIM and Snell. Snell, yes. Now Snell and FIM test the same parameters as ECE, but in a different way because they're testing for like track purposes mostly. Yeah. So it's different, but ECE, get ECE 2206. It far exceeds anything that you're likely going to encounter on a motorcycle on roads.
Yeah, and that was a big step up from 2205.
Oh yeah,
from what I've heard. 2205 is still better
really
than DOT.
Good. Yeah.
But if you can get ECE 2206 or Snell, that's just an extra peace of mind. So you don't have pieces of your mind. Oh, I mean,
I made the mistake of putting my my man cup in front of my computer, and it's just been having hot air blasted at it from my radiator.
I've done that before. I was like, oh, I got a nice cold drink, and I set it down by my computer.
It's just hot water now.
Come back from rendering a video, and it's just like,
the camera does not like my man cup.
Oh, what's it doing?
I don't know.
That's some weird.
I've had this cup for 25 years. It's a vintage man cup. Look, you got to stay hydrated.
I got a vintage man cup, but I don't play baseball anymore. Well, I guess with that, does anybody have any comments they want to add to this discussion? I think it's pretty straightforward where we kind of lie, and we understand if you don't like it, but screw you, wear a helmet.
I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, or don't ride. Like you have that choice too.
Yes, you have the freedom to stay at home and not do that as well.
I don't want any of my
All right.
friends in the motorcycle community I've had lots of friends end up in bad situations because of not wearing certain safety gear, and I just don't want to see any of my other two-wheel homies in that same position. Even if I don't like you, you're on a bike, I don't want you to be a vegetable for the rest of your life.
Yes, and my camera's out of focus, and I can't.
You can't resolve that. Mine's like really in focus.
Maybe if I do that, it'll.
Oh, look, you guys are getting a good look at the reason why I shaved my beard into a mustache today. Look at all that gray.
Ooh,
Pretty soon I'll be a silver fox.
I got a few grays sprouting here, so.
Yeah. I honestly don't give a shit about any of that stuff. It is what it
Hey.
is. You get old, right?
Oh, hey,
Anything past
happens.
25 years old is bonus years at this point, so I'm happy for those gray hairs.
I saw a meme that was pretty indicative of my perspective. Is like the age you are, and it had a parallel line of the age you think is old, and they just keep going up like this.
Yeah.
When you're 10 years old, you're 25, you're freaking old.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 25, 35 is old.
Yeah.
When you're 40, now you're like, no, that's just
No.
60.
No, we're here.
We're here,
Yeah.
and we enjoy it. Well, that was fun. Interesting. It is still interesting that, I guess to sum it up, it's interesting that there are legislation to remove the helmet law these days, rather than just, oh, hey, we want to add this. Oh, that makes sense. But
yeah, I think it's a little bit of a dog whistly kind of thing, and it's a little bit of a boogeyman kind of thing. And it's being used to be politicized. I don't think that your personal health should be politicized. I think they should be like, okay, cool. Then don't wear a helmet, get a ticket, or die. That's your choice. If you want to get on a motorcycle, wear a fucking helmet. But here we are.
And scene. That's a great way to close up that segment.
Can't buy common sense, I guess.
Anyway, just seeing if there's anything in the comments that we may have missed. The Dragon said, he said something earlier. Georgia has an unfair number of knuckleheads. Got it. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's
in my research for this video I'm working on. It is alarming to the level of self-inflicted ignorance on driving laws. Okay, this is a sidebar, but I'll make it real quick. Did you know, I don't know if it's still a thing, but up until 2023 at the very least, because that's the last information I saw on it, if you are 25 or older in the state of Georgia and you want to get your license, you don't have to take the driving portion of the test. You can just take the written portion and get an 80%, or is it like 75, something like that, or above to pass. And I'm just like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. What kind of, no wonder these people are, if you want to see what Georgia's like, just find an intersection and just watch how many people are blowing through red ass lights, not just turned red, have been red, and they just blow through them, or watching people merge. And I'm just like, we got to do better. We need an overhaul on giving people their license in the state of Georgia, in the country. And we also need to cut people off. When they get a certain age, you should be required to test every year whether or not you can still drive. But that's a conversation.
Or like, every few years or something. But yeah, it's
it's one of the things that I'm already not good in traffic, bud, and doing research for this thing, I'm just like, I'm just never leaving the house again. I'm gonna get a helicopter, take my motorcycle to the woods, plop her down, and then just never get back on the street ever again.
Well, I just had just a thought of, so that rule or loophole in Georgia of, okay, I'm 25, I just go take the written test.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the agreement of all the states, your license is valid in all other states you drive through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're a dickhead in other states.
Yeah.
So
the requirements should be unified across the board, and should be more stringent training. In my personal opinion, we do not train
Agreed.
people enough for being on the road.
Agreed.
I think the UK, like their learners, I think they spend like a year learning about not just other cars and traffic laws, but also like how to deal with pedestrians and non-car vehicles on the road. Like I think there's like
bicycles and
bicycles, rollerbladers, one wheels, like
mm-hmm.
motorcycles, scooters. I think there's like a whole section about that they have to go through and prove that they can navigate that world.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know how well they do or what the passing rate is or anything like that, and this is information from like years ago. But like I think we should do something similar.
Yeah. Do they have, I guess it sounds like they also have maybe a graduated license like they do. I know they do with motorcycles where you have to like step it up. Here,
I'm pretty sure that's with every type classification for their licenses. If I'm not mistaken, there's like a tiered system, like a step up when you get your license, and then you go to the next level and the next level, and you have to pass that previous level to get to the next level.
Yeah, that all makes sense. But here, you can go get a license and then just go.
Yep.
Or in the sense of motorcycles, I took my I went to the DMV and took my little course on a scooter, and then I go out and buy a Busa, and it's just fine.
I've seen it happen.
And it's
you go up to Mountain Motorsports and you see those 1,000cc motorcycles in the used section that have 20 miles on it. You're like, I know what that's about.
Yeah. Well, and get them cheaper then.
Yeah, right.
Somebody else ate the dealer fees on that one. All right. We're going to have a little bit of a fun thing here. For our members, we're going to spin the magic wheel for a member giveaway here. So let me pull this up.
It's fancy doing giveaways.
Yeah. So we got our members here, that support us. So we're going to support them back. So let me give it a little zoom. So all right.
Iceman says A1, A2, and A motorcycle levels. That's. And I think they're restricted as far as like CCs or power or something like that.
I think I always hear like A2 is what I hear is like the 500 CC. So like Honda's 500s, 471s, they go to whatever level of horsepower and then they stop there.
I think if I'm not mistaken, there's certain motorcycles that have like a mode in them that has to be turned on by the dealer. Like you can buy a motorcycle that's like locked in to like whatever level, and then you can get it turned on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I believe I've seen some videos of that happening. So
that's pretty neat, because then you don't have to keep buying a new bike every time. All right, we're gonna spin Yale wheel and see who comes up.
Little sound effects.
Hey, I always do. Leaf Costas, man, he's a repeat winner.
Nice.
We got Leaf in here. I don't know if he's here or not, but Leaf, if you watch this, you have 1 week to message me to claim your prize. If not, the jackpot rolls over to next time.
Nice.
That's how we're going to do it.
Double it and give it to the next person.
That's right. It's like Powerball. We call it Power Wheel. Oh, copyright. Dang.
That's cool. Awesome. Hey.
So hold on, let me.
Little
rigged. All right. So this past weekend, Bo and I showed up to a little demo event. Royal Enfield, which has come onto the scene in just the last few years, it seems like. They had a demo day up in Marietta, and I had never been on a Royal Enfield before that time.
Yeah.
And so I did a demo ride on 2 bikes. Did you do any more than the Himalayan?
No, I went there specifically. I've ridden a couple of the other models,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't interested in them. I was more interested in the updates to the Himalayan,
Mm-hmm.
coming from the 411 to the 450.
So to kind of step back and let's talk about Royal Enfield, just from a higher level. What has been your perception and impression of Royal Enfield from when you became aware of them to where they are now, and how has that evolved?
It really hasn't evolved. My view on them has always been like what they are, which is a bike meant to be worked on the side of a dirt road in like India. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are not spectacular. They were built to purpose, which was to be a people mover in places where civilization might not have been in tall order. Like you want to be able to easily work on it. I know their molds and all their castings had been the same for the last 50 years. Like everything was dead simple, easy to work on. The motor
Mm-hmm.
was just a tractor. Parts were easy to fix, especially like doing field repair. And I honestly don't think that has changed much at all.
Okay. So for me, like of course, I came into the motorcycle game later than most people probably. I always thought, well, or not early on, I thought Royal Enfield is a very just small, budget friendly bike, just off to the side. There's not a lot of them out there,
Mm.
which there wasn't a ton here,
Yeah.
because they were kind of more in certain markets more than others.
Yep.
And so I didn't really pay much mind to them.
Hmm.
But just in the last probably 5 or 6 years, it just seems like you hear about, okay, they opened a new facility, and then they've done this, and they acquired this company, and they're just slowly, but yet, no, maybe not slowly, but at a moderate pace, expanding and becoming a very normal motorcycle brand.
I think their trajectory is very similar to what Triumph was.
Yeah.
Triumph was this like mass produced
Mm-hmm.
boutique is what I called them. Like they weren't pushing the numbers, still aren't pushing the numbers that the
Mm-hmm.
big guys are pushing, but in the beginning it was like you saw these old Triumph sitting around, and then you saw a couple more would show up, and then slowly but surely they started making a bigger and bigger presence in the States, and then it started becoming less of a boutique and more of a premium,
Mm-hmm.
and they started introducing more of the things in a motorcycle that we would consider high end. When you look at a cheap motorcycle, you expect body panels to be misaligned, cheap plastics, that kind of thing.
Little flimsy or something.
Yeah, I think Royal Enfield is going that same trajectory while still maintaining price point.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, not to lead with our hand here, but I was very surprised at the build quality of the bikes that were there.
I was too.
Yeah,
I
and
was.
I mean everything from the plastics to the metal to the paint to the body lines to the dash.
Mm-hmm.
I was very like pleasantly surprised at how well appointed, I think is the term that we use, those bikes were.
I would agree with that. I rode the Bear 650 on my second demo, and the switches on it were like aluminum,
Yeah,
not even plastic. Which I was like, oh,
yeah,
interesting. And I think it's a design choice.
yeah,
Doesn't necessarily make it more premium or cheaper. I think it's just, but it was also but they're not skimping on it.
yeah.
Um,
You had
but
never ridden a Royal Enfield at all. That was your first experience with them.
it was the first one, and I was And I enjoyed it. Of course, I told you this while I was there. I was like, me riding a motorcycle is like pizza, even a bad one's still pretty good.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm not the best critic of motorcycles because I'm like, yeah, it was great. And
Well, you didn't have a preconceived notion of what to expect, which is good in a way.
yeah, well, and I even told well, maybe my expectation, a little bit of an expectation was this is a budget friendly bike.
Yeah.
And it is. But in my mind, I guess I'd already set myself up of like, it's going to feel cheap in places, and that's okay because it's built to a price.
You can
But
tell where they saved money,
yeah,
and they did it in places that aren't a direct interface for you as the rider, I think, is how I would describe it.
yeah. Well, there's also not a ton of bells and whistles on it. I mean,
not at
they
all.
have ABS, which is pretty
Yeah.
standard these days.
Yeah.
LED lighting on their newer models, which is great, but you're not going to see a one of them have cornering traction control.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
even in the pre-ride speech, the guy was like, "These do not have self-canceling turn signals," which
Nope.
even my bike doesn't have that, but still.
Yeah,
Um,
I got called out because I'm so used to my self-canceling turn signals that like I happen to be like 4 or 5 times.
Um, I will say though, I can understand that they are a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good way to say it. Not
Yeah.
that it's bad; it's just a little bit more just raw.
It feels very
engine.
analog.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because I had the thought when I was going home, like I went from 2 Royal Enfield bikes to my Kawasaki 4-cylinder, all digital, whatever, and I was like, yeah, this bike is smoother, more refined,
Yep.
and
It did
just
the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm having fun. And then I got on my bike and left, and I was like, oh, this is a nice bike I'm on.
yeah, I was like, oh, this is why this costs more.
Yep.
Again, not to take away from Royal Enfield,
No.
so I want to make sure that's clear. But it's just that your Kawasaki's, your Triumphs, your Hondas, they've been global leaders in this for so long that they are just
Yeah.
fit and finished, and their price does reflect that as being a little bit more.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I was impressed with Royal Enfield and just their presentation, and just if you want kind of a classic styled pure motor underneath you to just putz around on,
Yeah. I
I consider these.
My only experience is with older models. So when the Continental GT came out, the 650, and I enjoyed that. It was, like I said, a very analog experience. And then the Himalayan 411, and it's tractor, right? It's an absolute tractor. The 411 is it's not gonna knock your socks off, right? But it will take you pretty much everywhere you want to go. And if it breaks, you're going to be able to work on it. And I told this to you. I wanted to see what the 450, like, is it a generational leap? And I 100% will say this. The 450 is miles ahead of where the 411 was. And I think that most people are kind of missing that because the reviews I've seen of the 450 are comparing it to other bikes in the class instead of comparing it to the previous bike. This is a better bike than the 411 in nearly every regard. And it's hard to get a feel for a bike on a demo ride, right? Fully.
Yeah,
Because you
absolutely.
really just want to full send it, and like I want to take one of these and send it through, the trails up north and like really feel it out. But just in the little bit that we were doing, I was like, okay, I can feel the difference between this motor and the 411. While on paper doesn't seem like a huge departure, it's the characteristics of it were so much more amazing, and I feel like that's probably true with the 650 motor in the Bear, and there was another one they had there, and I'm just like, they are getting the idea that like you can still go price point and offer people what they want in reliability and, tracking and all the things that make Royal Enfield really good, but also kind of like, well, hey, let's make them a little more fun and a little more
Mm-hmm.
zesty, a little spicy. And
Yeah.
I definitely get that feeling. And even, like I said, as so far as just the looks of them were giving me that vibe. Like seeing them close up, I was like, these are not, they do not fall apart under scrutiny when you look at all the pieces.
Well, and they're still designed in the UK, I believe. They Royal Enfield, a little bit of history on them. Of course, they started out way back in the day as a bicycle company, like a lot did, and then started slapping motors on bicycles, and that's how it started
Yeah.
out. So they were still in the city of Enfield, which is north of London, making bikes for the like Royal Army or whatever. Supplied stuff during World War One and Two. Made some entries into races. Ultimately, they got basically bought or partnered with a company in India that imported motorcycles,
Yep.
and they imported a bunch to the Indian Army. Indians, the actually in India. Let's be
Yeah,
clear.
no, I got that.
Okay, just for the viewers at home, just making sure we're clear. Yeah, so that's where they kind of took over importing them. Then they partnered and did production, and then ultimately everything went to India.
Yeah.
But now they have acquired a company in the UK for design. They're doing R&D in a new facility in the UK, and this is like in 2010 to 2015. Then they opened Royal Enfield USA, which was like their first distribution outside of India.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee.
You can definitely tell that they aren't just like so the 411, it literally had felt no different than any of the other Himalayans I'd ever seen or ridden before then. Like you can tell it's like that's the same bike. And then now they're starting to get a presence in the US, and you can tell they're starting to get a presence in the US because they're starting to think more of a modern manufacturer and not like a, hey, the tooling's taken care of. Like we never have to redo anything. We're just gonna keep pumping out the same bikes, maybe add a few things like for Euro 5 compliance, yada yada yada. Um, that these new bikes are a huge departure from that, and I was very surprised
Yeah.
at my experience on. By the way, you saw it while you were there, right? The rally version of this.
Oh, that's what I rode.
Yeah, I love that. I love that look. As far as bikes are concerned, like small displacement adventure bikes, the rally was 100% the
Mm-hmm.
way to go. I don't think the regular one even deserves a second look, personally. The rally was just too cool looking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but of course, it had the extras. Like if you're really off road focused, that's the route you want to go.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it earlier about, comparing this to other OEMs may not be completely fair because it's kind of in its own.
Yeah.
It's kind of in its own track, but it is certainly better than where it was.
Oh, 100%.
So, which, by the way, people, that's a good thing for life. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to where you were yesterday.
Yeah. And I think we even discussed that the day of, honestly, is that like comparing this to itself from the 411, like the upgrades that it made
Mm-hmm.
to this bike, I keep saying it, it's miles ahead of where the 411 was.
Mm-hmm.
The motor. The only thing that I didn't like, there's two things I did not like about the Himalayan that I generally don't like about Royal Enfields as a whole. They do a good job of suspension out of the box, but there's no you can't there's no adjustments, right? Having said that, there's no adjustments and you can't fine tune it. For a stock non-adjustable suspension, they do a pretty good job of covering both sides of the spectrum when it comes to a rider in that category.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not for me. Like I need I need something a little stiffer, some adjustability, and every boner's got to be stiff. All right. Um, the other thing that most Himalayan Royal Enfields have done that I've noticed when I've ridden them is it always seems to prefer the controls, at least for mid controls. They always seem to be a little further back than I would like. On almost every mid control Royal Enfield I've ever ridden, I don't feel comfortable with the foot position.
Mhm.
That's about it. Everything else feels pretty good. My
Yeah.
biggest complaint is the suspension.
So any nitpicks on it is really kind of just personal preference,
Yep.
But
Yeah.
but to that point, it is kind of this is what it is, and that's fine. That's what it is. And if it works for you, and you don't need all the frills, it may be an option to consider.
I mean,
So
the flip side of that is that I mean, for most people out of the box, it's going to be okay. And
yeah,
I think that's something like most bikes that I've ever owned that don't have adjustable suspension have been garbage, and I've had to do things to like in my Bolt is a prime example of that. They had standard steering stem bearings, and that creates weird, notches and death wobbles because
hmm
you're putting a pit. All that bumping is putting a pit in the race of the bearing, and that's what causes. That's one of the reasons that death wobbles start. It's because your wheel is like
interesting.
it's tracking in that divot, and that causes a lot of problems. There's also like suspension and wheel things that can contribute to it, but most death wobbles can be fixed by installing a tapered steering bearing, and that's what I
hmm
did. And I got rid of the linear spring that was in there that was undersprung, and I got a spring that was sprung for my weight and it was progressive, so it could eat up the road bumps a little bit better. But that was like I'm in it for like $700 now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like I don't want to have to spend more money. So having said that, at least with the Himalayan, like it's not the best suspension, but it's okay.
yeah,
And that's really good for a thing that you can't adjust.
yeah. And as you said when we were there, they are built to a price,
Yeah.
and that's okay because if that works for you, and to be clear, the 650 is their biggest engine right now, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Yeah.
And it's not going to put out the same power as
Mm-mm.
the 650 from Kawasaki or anything like that. But they also get great gas mileage. The representative in the store, he was talking about the Super Meteor 650, which is their cruiser.
Yeah.
He was talking to a gentleman in there, and I just kind of walked up and opened up an ear, and he was saying, "Oh, I have one of these, and I get 70 miles per gallon." And I was like,
Also, it's a fun motor. Like I've ridden it in the Continental, the
"Yeah,
650. It's a fun motor. It's peppy. It's like it's
it
not gonna
is
you're not gonna break any records, but you can
right,
have fun on it.
right."
Here's the thing: you can have fun on any of these motorcycles. It's
Yes, pizza.
you have to adjust what your expectations are for it, depending
Yeah.
on what it's capable of. Because like the 450, the Himalaya 450, still a great bike. It's going to be capable of doing some things, and in the hands of a better rider than me, it's going to be able to do wild shit. But at the end of the day, you have to set the expectation that like this is not a 450 with 68 horsepower, and like it's not going to be pulling up the wheel at every gear. You're not going to be tabling it, and like you have to
Yeah.
you're gonna have some fun, but your definition of fun has to change. And I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up on this. It's actually interesting because there is another 450 bike that is from China that's hit the market recently, which is the Kove 450 Rally,
Mm-hmm.
and people are complaining about the power. And I think we have gotten spoiled on race bikes, and
Yeah.
like we want all the torque and all the horsepower, and I'm like that's great if you want to rebuild your engine every 100 hours, like you know what I mean, like those
Yeah.
kind of bikes that are peak power, you're going to be doing a lot more. uh, the Cove is meant to do. It was built specifically to do Dakar, 10 days of riding, 800 kilometers a day. Like you are going to be pushing that thing. It needs to be able to go fast for a long period of time. The Himalayan, it's not meant to do Poltares style enduro, right?
Yeah.
It is meant to take you places, be reliable, be a tank, be a tractor, and get you where do you want to go and have a little fun doing it. And I think that when you go into it like that, it's a fantastic machine.
Two things off of that. One, have you talked to Randrew about his Cove 450? Because he's got one of those.
No, I haven't.
Um,
It's also on my very short list of small bikes I've been looking at.
You may want to talk to him about that. But two, I kind of draw a little bit of a parallel to what you were talking about to Honda. One of the complaints about Hondas is like, oh, Honda's always underpowered when you compare it to Yamaha or Suzuki. And it's like, yes, but their engines last for freaking ever because they're not under the same amount of stress. Yeah. It's like, as long as you change the oil once every couple of decades, you'll be fine.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think to your point, as Americans, where motorcycles are these recreation and sport vehicles, we want to think horsepower. Oh, and this bike, it's got the same engine size, but it doesn't have the same horsepower. It must be an inferior product.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. It's just not
I
killing
I
itself.
could see myself having just as much fun on a bike with half the power of my bike.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just going to be different, right? It's just
Yeah.
going to be a different kind of fun. Like the Himalayan 450, the Cove 450, the CF Moto 450, everybody who's riding those, when you're riding it as is, you can, and it's in a bubble, you can really enjoy it. It's only when it's only when you compare it to something that's crazier that it kind of falls apart. And I don't think that that's a fair way to look at these bikes. If you look at the Himalayan 450 and try to compare it to, say, a KTM 450 or the Honda 450L, like the CRF 450L, it's not going to perform like that at all. But also, you have to change the oil on a 450L like every 2,000 miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're also not going to pay as much for it too.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, 100%.
So-
I think this one, if I'm not mistaken, the Himalayan 450, fully kitted out was like 10 grand, like with every accessory they have.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah.
You're going to look at some of the other 450s. You're going to look at probably 12, 13. For everything.
I think the street version of the Cove is, which basically is a different, different exhaust, different intake, and a couple of minor tweaks and stuff. I think it's still in the $9,000 to $10,000 range for a 450 enduro bike, albeit with 8 gallons of fuel. Let's just clarify, which is just wild. There is a company that's already made. It's Chirby's. They've already made the large gas tank for the Himalayan 450, which is hilarious. So you get like 3 more gallons of fuel on a bike that probably gets like 70 miles to the gallon.
So you can definitely get out and get lost for a little while.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah.
I had a good time. We are going to another demo ride soon.
We are going to another demo ride. So, end of April, CF Moto is going to be up at Northeast Georgia Motorsports. And I know Bo's looking to ride that Ibex 450. I would be very much interested to check that guy out too.
Yep.
CF Moto is another one of those companies that in the past couple of years has made some strides. A lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, it's Chinese," and they're waiting for it to fail, but it's not. So
the reviews are pretty good. I'm looking forward to trying it out with you, bud.
Yeah. So we'll be up there for that. I'm glad to get into demo season and just kind of ride the different bikes and just see what is out there.
I just want to put miles on a bike that I don't own and have to maintain. You know what I mean?
Well, that's fair. That is fair. That is. But yeah, Royal Enfield, to kind of wrap this up, I was very impressed with what they had for what they are.
Yeah.
Again, understanding it where you need to make comparisons and where you shouldn't, which, Bo hit on a lot of that. I liked them, man. They're good.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
And scene. What is it? Just
That's
random.
my sand person.
Oh, the Tuscan Raider.
Yes.
Okay.
Is sand person derogative?
Well, it's too generic. They want to.
Okay.
They want you to refer to them. And you got to make the sound with it. We're professionals.
I am. I'm happy to have been a part of this now.
I mean, talk about sand people and make noises. One thing we always have to do.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
We need to come away with a little bit of extra knowledge, or just at least acknowledging certain aspects in life that we need to clarify. So everyone, it is that time.
Just the tip.
It's my favorite time of the week. Finally, time for the Ghost of the Week. Yay! That was great.
Got the whole bumper and everything.
Tip of the week is sponsored by Ghost on Two Wheels over on Instagram, of course. Speaking of tips,
it didn't update to the new one. Shoot.
Just the tip. I don't see what you're doing.
Oh, I was supposed to read it. It did not update to the new one. Hold on, I have to correct something.
Oh no.
Oh, because it
This is what happens. This is what happens. You bring a boner in your tip that stops working.
All right, hold on. I've got to.
Yeah, I've seen this one. You did this one.
I did do that one already. So hold on. Give me a second.
Fine.
More.
You're in control here. I like being a guest. I don't have to fucking do shit.
I know, right?
This is awesome. I have no responsibilities. I get to just show up and say hello. Also, thank you for inviting me on to fill in for Patty.
Yeah, man. Enjoyed it. So,
yeah.
Is this it? Okay. I'm just going to have to put this up in post. I'm going to have to read it again or something. All right. I can't change it while I'm streaming.
Riveting. Then just say it out loud.
All right, here we go. The tip of the week. The phrase, "I'm sorry and I apologize," mean the same thing, unless you're at a funeral. So just...
Yep, that's good.
The words matter, especially if you're at a funeral.
Yeah. Context is king.
Yeah.
That was good stuff, bud.
Oh, that was fun. Well, yeah. Anything else you want to chat about?
No,
share with the crowd.
I'm getting back into the swing of content. I am at the precipice of dealing with some mental health issues. I've had a good support structure from friends and family. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here, and not the light.
Tunnel.
Yes, not that light. I'm not gonna. I just want to clarify, but
the light you see when you're not wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Full circle.
But no, I'm getting back in the swing of things, and I've got some pretty awesome stuff. I had a great conversation with Carolyn Doodle on a motorcycle today. We just went and rode and talked about life and content and blah blah blah. And
nice.
So, yeah, if you aren't already, go subscribe, and then it's going to be an interesting rest of the year, I think.
So, should we tell them about what you're going to try to get me to do?
Yeah, go camping. Yeah, yeah, I want it to happen. I tried to get you to come with me cold camping, and it was an interesting. I wish you had been there because it did drop down to 25. One of the last videos I did, I went doing cold camping tips, and it was supposed to be 32, and it got down to 25. That was fun, and I was the only person there.
Do you know why? Because normal people don't do that, Bo.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you out there. We're gonna go camping, and we're gonna do it right. But yeah, I've got this coming, and then the other thing, and it hasn't happened yet, but I secured a really good deal with a company here in Georgia that rents camper vans that they themselves build. And me and the wife are going to start making content of our own of our travels.
Nice.
Yeah, and he signed up for it, and he's like, "I'm down." It didn't take much convincing. It's a company called Scamper Vans. You may have seen them at like Triumph events and stuff. It's Dutch's buddy Clapper, David Clapper, and David Clapper used to be like roommates with my brother, like way back in the day. And I just remembered it. And I was like, me and the wife were talking about wanting to go camping and go do a camper van thing and document the whole process. And I called him up and I was like, hey, what do you think? I basically asked him questions about how much it would cost to build and like whatever my own camper van. And he was asking me questions about it. I told him what my plans were, and he's like, dude, but yeah, we'll work with you. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
So,
awesome, Bo.
we have no videos, but we have a channel, Legs in the Wheel Man, and and here this year we're gonna start the process of documenting the travel parts because we have taken the idea of RVing, and instead of being a 5-year plan, it's gonna be like a 2-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting there.
Nice. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that stuff.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, bud.
peeps, I think that's all we got for now.
I want to share one last thing.
Is it the puppers?
It's 6 o'clock, and this is my life.
Like dinner time?
Look at that face. He's just like, hey, are you gonna be much longer?
Oh yeah.
Noise.
Oh,
Noise.
member for 24 months, Control Alt Own. Have you heard of the band? Oh, God. Have you heard of the band 1023 Megabytes? They haven't got a gig yet. Yes.
Yeah.
Well played.
Well played.
For those of us in the technical world,
Yeah. That's a good one.
he had to ram that joke in there, didn't he?
Hey.
Hey!
All right. Let me feed these losers. Thank you again for having me on.
Bye.
guys.